If you're part of my email community, you know that a couple weeks ago, I sent out an email warning you that something may be happening and you need to act quick to avoid the problem. Well, guess what? It happened. Hi, I'm Linda Bartolucci, and I am a card maker, and I love to share and teach you how to make clean and simple cards. In today's video, I'm going to show you a few Easter cards. Two of them are fairly basic, clean and simple, just like usual, and one of them has a fancy gift card holder feature to it. So be sure to watch all three of them, and let's get to it. Today's first project is a card that looks almost exactly like this with a couple little twists. First of all, we're going to change this fresh freesia color to pale papaya. I want to share as many of the colors that are about to retire in April as possible in the next several videos so that you make sure if they are colors that you like, you grab them before they're gone. I'm also going to color the bunny just a little bit differently, and we're going to add a different color of ribbon. But the basics of how to put this card together are going to be the same. The one thing I do want to point out is listen really carefully for the way that I stamp this layer, because that is a technique that you can use over and over again on any card in the future. So let's get started. To make this card, we're going to use the Stylish Shapes dies. I've already cut the largest circle. That's what the bunny is going to be stamped on. I already said we're going to use this stamp set. We're going to use crumb cake as our base color. And this is what happens when your stamp pads are in the Florida sun, but my ink still looks like crumb cake. And then we're going to use the pale papaya. I'm also going to use the pumpkin pie and old olive markers to color in my carrot. And I'm going to use the pale papaya Stampin' Blends to color in the bunny just a little bit. For our perishable pieces, I'm going to use a little bit of this beautiful pale papaya ribbon that will be headed off to retired land when the next catalog is introduced. I need just a little scrap of white so that I can stamp my carrot and cut it out. And then this is, as I said, the large circle that we're going to use. And then for our layers, we are going to use a pale papaya layer that is 4 by 5 1/4. And our card base started out at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and folded. All right, let's move this stuff out of the way and get to making our card. So I've made a little space for myself. I have my stamping mat down, and the first thing I'm gonna do is just stamp my bunny and go ahead and color him in just to get that out all set up. And I'm also going to stamp my carrot, so that's done too. And then we can do all of our coloring. So my carrot's going to go on this little scrap here. I'm using a larger block than I might generally need, just because I didn't grab a smaller one for no other reason. We're going to use the crumb cake ink pad. I'm going to open that up, and then we're going to ink up our carrot, and I'm just going to stamp it here. And then we're going to fussy cut that out after I color it. And then I'm going to use another C block, and I'm going to put the bunny that is standing up on my other block. And then I'm going to not dead center the bunny. I want to make sure that the tail doesn't end up hitting these pierces, but I want to leave enough room to add my cute carrot. So the bunny is going to be just a little bit off center. The nice thing about a circle is you don't have to make sure that this is perfectly straight, because you can always just adjust your circle a little bit to make sure he's really straight. Okay, let me bring in the original card and just tell you what I did here. So here I used a blending pen, and I just kind of smudged the crumb cake a little bit, but we're actually going to use, like I said, the blender pens for this. Now, the only trick about using your blending pens when you are not using the tuxedo inks, or sorry, the memento inks, is that this is a water-based ink and it's alcohol in the pen. So you need to be very careful when you color this that you don't get too close to the crumb cake ink, because it will definitely smudge. So I'm just going to do a little bit inside there. I'm going to do a little bit, and I'm using the lighter of the two blends. I'm not even gonna, I don't think I'm gonna use the darker one. I'm just gonna get a little bit here and a little bit on his nails and a little bit on his toes. And that's all I'm going to do. I just want it to pop a little bit, and this way, when it gets onto the card, it'll add a little more character to it. That's what that means, add character. All right, here we go. I need to color in my carrot. I'm using my pumpkin pie marker, and this works fine because these are water-based markers. So I can color right over the crumb cake ink and not worry about it smudging. I'm using the brush tip on both because I think you have a little better control as to how much comes out. I'm not even really setting this on the card. I'm just kind of lightly touching it because the brush tip has a lot of ink in it, but it is going to allow me to color with just a light amount of ink. And then I'm just going to fill in the edges of the leaves here with the fine tip. Okay. Maybe a little more color than I wanted, but we're gonna go with it. All right, to finish off the carrot, I need to fussy cut this guy. And as if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I am not a super big fan of fussy cutting, but I'm trying to get better. And I have to say, from making a few of these cards, that this is not too bad for fussy cutting. The first thing I like to do is just cut around it so that I have a much smaller piece to work with. And then the other key when you're fussy cutting is to just use continuous cuts with your, I'm using Stampin' Up's paper snips, but just make sure you have really sharp bladed scissors. I prefer when it's something this small to use a shorter blade scissor as well. So even though this is the only scissor that Stampin' Up has, if I'm fussy cutting something a lot larger, I do have a pair of larger shears that or larger scissors that I like to use. So I'm just making my way around the leaves. And if you can see, I'm right-handed, so I'm holding the scissors with my right hand, but I'm holding the carrot with my left, and my left hand is the only one that's moving. The only thing my right hand is doing is opening and closing the scissors as necessary. I'm actually going to I'm going to cut these two leaves as kind of one here. And then we're going to go up. We'll go around this guy and get that last one. I also try to leave a little bit of a white edge. I just think it looks a little better when you put this on your card. It gives you a little bit of a shadow, almost like a white mat around what you're doing. All right, this is getting too small, so I'm gonna let that drop. And then I'm gonna come in here and go around this leaf. We're almost there. Around this one. And all right, and I plan on doing this for all the cards, so this is why, even though it's an Easter themed video, I hope you take the time to watch all the projects because fussy cutting is something that you can do on any card. Coloring in this way is important to understand when you're using alcohol markers, the difference between when you use an alcohol-based ink pad like a Memento that's meant to be colored with alcohol markers, or a regular water-based or dye ink pad that's not necessarily meant to use that medium, and it can run pretty easily. All right, I put 2 mini dimensionals on the back of my carrot. I don't like that this one is kind of sneaking out, so we're going to tuck him in a little better. There we go. And now I can put this on my card, or sorry, I can put this next to my bunny here. All right, and we have finished the focal point. I will add a ribbon, but I will do that later. So we're gonna move this off to the side. Now let's work on our card. And this is the other technique that I wanted to show you. We are going to, here we go. I'm just gonna take the carrot off of this block, this C block. I'm gonna use a little bit of my grid paper, which I'm gonna need anyway, to clean off the block. And then you can see from the sample, let me show you, that we used the eggs, the butterfly, and the bird. And you might think that I used a small block to do that, but I actually did not. I used this large C block. And the reason is because I'm going to stamp this over and over again. And when you're using small images, it makes it a lot easier to look uniform, repetitive, not sure what the right adjective is there. But if you're going for that wrapping paper, wallpaper sort of look, and you try to achieve it with stamping three different times, you end up with just a random look. We're going for more of a, like I said, gift wrap sort of look. So I'm just gonna keep stamping this the same way. In this way, it will fill in my background. But number one, it fills it in super fast. And number two, it gives it a little more uniform look. I'm not worried that I've got an opening here because when I put the bunny on, it's gonna barely look like a space. All right, so we're done with those two blocks. So the last piece of stamping that we need to do is on the inside of our card. First, I'm gonna just burnish the score line to make sure this stays nice and tight. And then I'm going to stamp, oh, got a little blemish there, but that's okay. Oh, and I got another one. Clearly I have ink on my fingers. Okay, well, we'll have to fix that. I have ideas. All right, I'm going to put Happy Easter inside the card, and we're going to use our pale papaya to do that. And then we'll fix that with our eggs, butterfly, and bird that are still loaded. Now, if you don't make a good enough Happy Easter there, you have two choices. You can decide it's good enough because you're making a handmade card, or you could grab a white layer that is 5 by 4 1/4 and just stamp that so you make sure that it's exactly what you want. So I'm going to just kind of add these. I'm just going to do the one. That just covers my stuff or my mistakes. Maybe I'll do it here. There you go. Not what I planned on doing, but covering mistakes on the fly is an important skill. All right, so now I'm going to let this dry because we are in humid Florida. This one's all set up. We're going to need to add a couple more things to it, and then we are done with our card. So the first thing I'm going to do is attach this to the card. I'm using my Tombow liquid glue. I just have it in this dispenser that I got off of Amazon. I do have a link below to my Amazon store, so if you'd like to support me by purchasing that on Amazon, I would really appreciate it. And there we go. So there is our cute bunny, nice and straight. And then the last thing that we're going to do is add a little ribbon to pop up in the corner. I'm going to use my 10-second bow maker, which again is linked in the description below. And if you could kindly use that link, it is an affiliate link. It doesn't change the price for you, but it does support my small channel, and I greatly appreciate it. I love this little guy because I can make any size bow in 10 seconds flat. In fact, I think over the years, I've gotten even faster. Oh, but I did make long tails, so we need to trim those off. Grab my ribbon scissors. Here we go. All right. And I am going to use a glue dot to put this on. So when I use glue dots for ribbon, I push the bow into the glue dot, and then I just add it. Okay, I think these are a little too long, so we are actually going to trim them off even more. We're going to make this super dainty. Okay, now I'm going to go up here, cute, All right, so there we go. Now we're going to attach this to our card. We are done with our first project. I really do love these dispensers. I haven't had problems with them clogging as long as you remember to close it. And it makes it so I have a lot more control over how much glue comes out. All right, so we're just adding this 4 by 5 1/4 layer on the top of our card, and then we're just going to set it aside and let it dry. You can see you can't even tell that there was that blank spot probably right there under his legs. So there we go. There is project number 1. This is the next card that we're going to make. And as you can see, this time we're using this cute bunny punch that goes with the stamp set. Generally speaking, you can purchase that in a bundle, but right now you can't because, as I warned my email community a couple weeks ago, this punch is gone. I saw the writing on the wall when that beautiful shamrock punch along with the hearts punch disappeared, so I assumed that the bunny punch would be the next to run out of stock, and I was right. So this is the only card that we're making today where you really kind of do need the bunny punch to make this work. You could always stamp this shape. This guy's pretty easy to fussy cut. So you could use, as you can see in the stamp set, this is the bunny that's meant to be cut out with the punch if you're using the stamp. You could definitely stamp this in a crumb cake because that's going to go with the card, and then just fussy cut it, and you could line them up just this way. So I'm going to show you how to put this card together. We're going to use the punch because it's quicker and easier, but you could definitely use the stamp as a variation. All right, so this card is going to use a crumb cake base. I'll show you the inside, and then we're going to have a Happy Easter on the inside. So this card is going to use a crumb cake base along with 3 pieces from this is actually the Tea Time Designer Series paper because it's in petal pink, and I just thought petal pink and the mint went together really well. So for the card base, we're going to use a crumb cake card base measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I've already die embossed the timber embossing folder on here. You could do that on a separate layer that's a little smaller, or you could do it on the card base itself like I did. Then this time, instead of the stylish shapes, we are using the stitched rectangles dies, and I'm using the 3rd largest rectangle and the third largest skinny rectangle and the 3rd largest large rectangle. So that's how this one is going to go together. This isn't one where I'm going to do all the stamping at once because this is the layer that we need to concentrate on. These are just going to get glued too. So first, let's stamp and color our grass. All right, we're going to use our Mint Macaron ink pad along with our Mint Macaron light and dark Stampin' Blends to make this work. And I'm going to show you what I did to ensure that I could recreate this card over and over again. So what I did is when I cut out the rectangle at one of the times, I saved the frame from it. And then once I got this layout the way I wanted it, I actually took this and put it here. I labeled it Bunny Family Card so I could remember which card it came from. And then I just made little marks here so I would remember where the grass went. And now what I can do is just lay this right over here. And then I can go ahead and pop my stamps on my blocks. I need the grass for this part. I'm going to use the grass. And then I'm going to use my Mint Macaron pad. I'm going to stamp the grass twice next to each other. So the first one is going to go as absolutely low as I can go. And then I'll go back to the pad and stamp it again. And if there's a little bit of space, that's okay. And then this one is also over to the side, so I'm going to do it next. I want to keep a finger on the frame and a finger on the rectangle since I don't want either to move and mess me up. So there are those two. Okay, that's a little better. They're closer together. And then I'm going to come over here to this mark. Just make sure. All right, and then we're going to go way over to this side, right in the vicinity of that line that I put on the outside. All right, it's a little bit high. Oh well, no, I'm not gonna try and pull it down. All right, so I'll show you what I'm gonna do here to make it a little bit better. I'm actually not gonna use the dark, I'm not sure why I grabbed it, but I'm gonna use the brush end of the light to fill this in. And again, you're gonna want to not spend a lot of time coloring this in. You wanna make sure that you don't drag this marker over the ink that you already put down. So I'm just gonna pull this down a little bit just to be able to, because the bunny's gonna sit up on the grass and I wanna be able to see the grass. So for some of it, I'm gonna pull it down just a little bit. And I'm gonna pull it down a little bit more. And that should be fine. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and do these the way they were intended from the first sample. So I'm just really quickly coloring these in. And the reason that I'm doing it so fast is like I said, I don't want to spend any time on the outline of the grass that I already laid down and smudge it in any way. Remember, you should, when you have your alcohol markers, you should have a color lifter, which is the white capped marker. If you really make a mistake and get out of the lines and that bugs you, you can certainly use the lifter. And it basically is just like a color eraser, and it'll pull the alcohol color, whatever it is, no matter how dark, right back up. Okay, so now I'm not gonna stamp my high yet because I wanna see where the bunnies end up. So we're just gonna set this open ink pad aside. I know, kind of dangerous, but I'm gonna do it because I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna punch my bunnies first. So we're gonna punch one from each pattern. So I'm just doing it upside down so I can see where the bunnies are. You can see you're gonna get from one 6x6 piece of paper, you're gonna get lots and lots of bunnies. There we go. All right, close my bunny up and put that over. Now we're gonna use dimensionals to put these guys on, but I'm gonna double check that I like the way this is going, and I do. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna use my Stampin' Dimensionals, but I wanna use the larger ones. So we're gonna just put a few on here. Now I will mention that before I put my bunnies on, if I wanted to, I could add the matte to my white rectangle. Those two steps, it doesn't really matter what order you go in. So I want the bunnies to overlap and I want to be able to see the grass. So I'm going to go up just a little bit with this guy, even though he's into the next guy's grass. And I know these could be girls too. I just was calling them guys. All right, so 3 dimensionals on each works fine. And now, and it's okay that they are off the rectangle because I've got plenty of room on my card. This rectangle is much smaller than the card. It's actually gonna be matted on a 3x4 1/4, so it's smaller than that, which gives me plenty of card real estate for this thing to hang out. Okay, so there's my last one. And I do recommend that you kind of do them this way. If you don't, so I did this guy first, then this guy, then this guy. And I would recommend that you do it in that order if you're going to try and copy this exactly, because I think it gives you the best chance to show as much of the grass as possible. All right, now let's go ahead and stamp our high. So I'm going to need my smallest acrylic block and the high. And then because it's so tiny, I'm just gonna, test it out. There we go. All right, so this layer is now complete. We're going to mat it and then add it to our card. We're going to take this, and you can see where the alcohol marker bleeds right through the basic white cardstock. So you wanna make sure, just like when I colored on here, I had some scratch paper underneath. This is our smaller grid paper. You want to make sure you have something underneath for that to work. All right, and now I'm just going to put this on here to give me a little more green to pop, because I think it makes the bunnies show up a little bit better. I'm always getting ink on my fingers. The bunnies show up a little bit better. I think the whole thing just kind of pulls together. And now we're going to do that again with the glue. Get all the way around the edge. There we go. And now I'm going to pull in my card base and add this to the center. The last thing that we're going to do is stamp the inside. Okay, my bunny there is a little high, but as I eyeball this, what I'm looking for is that all my alleys are even. I might have gone just a little high on this guy, but if I pull it down even just 1/8 of an inch, which is all I did, now my bunny stays on the card, which means that this will go into an envelope really easily. Now, the other thing to note is that these are not, I mean, they're stuck on here. They're not going anywhere, but there are pieces of them that are a little floppy. If you want to put, oh, actually, that's why this is so, I was trying to figure out why this one is so floppy. There we go. All right. They're a little floppy, but they might catch when you're sliding it in an envelope. So what I would recommend, I'm just going to grab this scrap. This is 4 by 5 1/4, but it's big enough. Put even a piece of computer paper that you just use 1/4 of it on top. It'll just make it easier to slide in and out of the envelope, and the bunnies won't get caught as that's happening. All right, let's get the inside of this done. So we need our mint macaron one more time. And I need my Happy Easter. Just going to make sure, yeah, pale papaya is a pretty light color. So just doing that should let me transfer over to mint macaron without any troubles. There we go. So Happy Easter. You could certainly stamp direct to card like I did on the first one. Just wanted to show you options. It's always fun when you can use a small die that matches the front die. So on the first card, if you were going to do this, I would probably try and grab one of the shapes from the Stylish Shapes dies. Just so these are both stitched, and then you have piercing here, and if you had a shape that was pierced there. All right, so that's our bunny card. Now we're going to move on to the gift card holder card. Say that 3 times fast. Here we go. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 projects, and we will get to the third one in just a moment. But if you wouldn't mind clicking that like button so that YouTube knows that you're enjoying what you're seeing. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you know when I post my next video. All right, let's get back to the cards. All right, let's make our third and final Easter card. This is a gift card holder card, and you could definitely use this mechanism on any greeting card that you wanted to make for any occasion. You just need to start with a top folding card, and then I'm going to show you how to put this mechanism inside. Let me go through all the materials that we're going to use, and then we'll get started making the card. So for our embellishment, we have these adhesive sequins that are in the January to April catalog, a crumb cake pad, some tear and tape for adhesive. We're also going to use dimensionals underneath this layer right here. I have 2 die cutting tools to use. First, the gingham folder. It's a plain folder, not a 3D one. And then we're going to use the Stylish Shapes dies, just this large square. Let's walk through the cardstock pieces and then we can get started. I have a piece of 3 3/4 inch by, I don't know, probably 4-ish. But I'm going to cut this down once I stamp my Happy Easter. So I just was looking for something in my scrap bin that was 3/4 of an inch high. And then I already told you we're going to use the Stylish Shapes. I've already die cut the largest square. That's what the bunny's going to go on. We have a piece of Country Gingham Designer Series paper, and that measures 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. And then we have a piece of mint macaron that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. This is the one that I ran through the gingham folder. Then you need your, oops, not this one. We don't need a side folder. We need a top folding. Here we go. Our top folding card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored at 5 1/2 and folded in half. Then the 2 pieces that you use to make the mechanism, this one is 5 by 4, and we're scoring at 3/4 of an inch here. And then this one is 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, and we're scoring at a 1/2 inch on each side. You will have, if you look in the description below and you click over to the blog post, you can get my download which has all the information that I am sharing in this video except for the actual assembly instructions. But there's also a link on the download to get back to this video if in case you need to look at it again, especially to get that mechanism just right. Okay, let's get started. Let me clear away my space just a little bit. We're going to do the knot assembly things first, and then we will make that mechanism. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my stamping done. I'm going to get my stamping mat in here. A few things off to the side, obviously. Let's see, I'm not going to need that, so we'll put that over there. There we go. Okay, so I have my stamping mat here. I have my square. It's the largest from the Stylish Shapes dies. I'm going to grab my bunny from one of the previous cards, and we're going to ink it up in crumb cake, and I'm just going to stamp him right in the middle because he's the only thing that's going on here. So I just want to make sure that the bottom of the bunny is parallel to the square so that it's nice and even. Holding it for a mental count of 5, and there he is. Very, very cute. We're not going to color him in this time. We're just going to leave him like that, but I am going to add a few of the pink sequins. I think I'm going to do the larger ones. So I am going to grab my take your pick tool. I have 2 of these around my craft room. One of them I always keep this on for the die cut, the dies that have very intricate die cuts. And you can use this to get all the little bits and pieces out. And then the other one has the putty tip to it so you can pick up things. So that tool is super versatile and very flexible. All right, so I'm going to slide these back in. In case you were wondering what I'm putting this in, this is an clear Avery envelope. And you can find those on my Amazon page, which is linked below in the description. And this is my embellishment log. I will link a whole video about creating all of these for my embellishments in the cards and below in the description of this video in case you want a new way to organize your embellishments. All right, so this layer is finished. Let's continue our stamping. I'm going to get the Happy Easter done on my 3/4 inch piece here. So we're just going to do that. I'm not going to center it because remember I want this to be a little bit smaller. I actually am going to go for around the width of this guy. So I'm going to go right in the center here. Again, I'm just going to hold for a second or two. I know my block looks crooked, but I can see the bottom of the Easter word of the stamp where there's a flat piece was lined up just perfect with the bottom, and so I knew it was going to stamp straight. Now I'm just going to grab my paper snips, and right about here is where it looks even. I'm just going to grab it there. I have a little mark, and now I can just trim it off straight. There we go. So this piece of scrap can go away. I'm going to cap these back off because they are super sharp. And then we can add these 2 pieces to our card. I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the rabbit to make sure that it stands up nice. We'll use 5. I think that should be plenty. There we go. So Easter is coming up. If you're planning on making cards for that, it's on April 9th this year. So just keep that in mind for getting your supplies together and getting all your stamping done. Let's glue this one. I guess on the original one I popped this up too, but we're going to glue it just for a little difference in levels. I think it looks just fine. And then we'll glue this on. Oh, sounds like I need to load this back up again. If you're interested in this fine tip dispenser as well, it's on my Amazon page. All of that can be found under the shopping category on my website in the main menu, or again, there's a direct link right below in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. There we go. I do get a little, it is an affiliate link, so it does help my business out, but it does not cost you any extra. All right, last layer to get glued, and then the rest of it we'll go ahead and use our tear and tape. Probably could have used the full bottle for this big layer, but it's all the way over behind me on my craft table, so we're just gonna go with this. So you can see, because it's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, there's hardly any crumb cake that shows through. And I think that's just fine because you're gonna see a lot of crumb cake when you open this up. So there we go. Oh, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's really windy outside today. All right, so I'm gonna flip this over, and now we're going to take care of building our mechanism. First, I'm gonna stamp the greeting here. Actually, no, sorry. I'm stamping the greeting on this one. This covers this up. So this is the slide, and this is the hide. We'll make a rhyme. So on the slide piece, we're not going to stamp. On the hide piece, we are. So on this piece, I'm going to take my greeting that says, an Easter treat for you. I'm going to straighten it out just a little bit more. It's a little crooked there. I'm going to stamp it or ink it up on my crumb cake. And then I'm going to center it between the two score lines. I mean, they're even, so really just centering it here and just dropping it a little bit below. And then that means that the gift card will pop up right behind this. So there we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fold these two down, and we're going to close this up real quick so I don't get ink all over the place. And now we're going to come in with our tear and tape. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put tear and tape on this one and then on this side as well. So matching the two sides. And then look where the greeting is. You're going to go along the bottom. You want to go all the way underneath. So we want this to be like a pocket. All right. So I'm going to go score line to score line. There we go. All right. So just to repeat, because I kind of messed up a little bit, you're going to put your tear and tape or permanent, some sort of good, strong permanent adhesive. You could use liquid glue. I just don't see a need to move this very much. So you're going to fold these back and you're going to put it along here and then all the way between the two score lines. And then I'm just going to use my take your pick tool just to pick these up. We are going to pull these off. And when I pull the bottom one off, these two are going to stick. And so this is going to kind of make, like I said, this is the hide part. And we're going to put that on our card first. So as you can see in the sample, the hide goes all the way down to the bottom. So we're going to, it doesn't have to match perfect. It can be just a tiny bit up if you want. But basically we're going to go all the way down to the bottom here. And then we're just going to lay this on the card. So now I have basically a pocket right there at the bottom of the card. And what I want to do with that pocket is I'm going to add some adhesive here. You can see from the side, there's this part right here is right there. So what happens is when you first, you're going to put your adhesive here and you're going to set it here, and then it's going to make the slide. Let me show you what I mean. Trust me, it's going to work. So we're going to put 2 pieces of tear and tape this time because this is the mobile part of the mechanism and I want to make sure it stays really nice. So 1, 2, there we go. All right, so then we're going to take the release paper off of these guys. Then I'm going to tuck this inside the hide part. And remember, I have these little foldovers, so you want to make sure that it doesn't get caught on those. It's all the way in. It's pretty easy, but just make sure. And then the top of this piece goes just at the bottom of that score line that you made. And it lines up just perfect. It goes right to the bottom of the score line. And I'm going to move it over just a little bit so it's right in the center. Let's get it there. Okay. And then you only get one shot at this, but it's not that hard. There we go. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to stop futzing with it. Okay, so then this is how you make the mechanism. You just close your card down and push at the top. Sorry for shaking the camera. And then when you open it back up, you have your mechanism. So now I can take my bone folder and I can just burnish that score line right there. I can burnish these guys because I'm all set. And I can close up the card, flip it over, and just get this one real quick. All right. So now I have my mechanism in there. And then if I want to add a gift card, I just put a couple of glue dots on the back. I actually put 2 down at the bottom and 1 here. And then you just kind of tuck it in. I open it all the way up, tuck it in just a little bit, and then push down on it to make sure that it stays, and then slide it. And it's in there nice and tight. All right, so that takes care of your trio of Easter card samples. Remember that the Easter Bunny punch is not available anymore. So if you're one of the lucky people that has it, you can copy this card exactly. You could always fussy cut this bunny, and the stamp set is definitely available and you can use it for all of these projects. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you're making plans to copy one or more of the cards that I showed you. And remember that the first 2 layouts are very simple and the gift card holder mechanism can be used in any top folding card. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up by clicking the like button on your way out. And if you're not a member of my channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you know when I post my next video. Have a great day.